She said, "Hold up, I'm on my period," and then stood beside my bed, bent her knees, removed her tampon and placed it inside my water bottle and then hopped back into bed ready to go. People ask Reddit. What's the most awkward sexual experience you've ever had? I met a beautiful nurse on a cruise. I had been snorkeling that afternoon in Jamaica and had stopped at this Jamaican jerk chicken hut for lunch. That evening after dinner, Sherry and I walked up to the highest deck of the ship and proceeded to get into it on a lounge chair. I still had my shorts on, but she was totally naked, and I was eating her out. I see a flash of white in the corner of my eye and look up. It's a ship's officer. He stands there and waits until this poor girl dresses. He was an a-hole. It was about 12 midnight. We weren't bothering anyone as the upper deck was void of anyone else. He didn't even turn around to allow her to put her clothes on with some dignity at least, a total a-hole. Then he walks us around the ship saying nothing but acting as if he's going to throw us into the brig. He finally let us go. We go to my cabin and start to get into it again. Suddenly I realize I'm about to have a gastrointestinal event that cannot be avoided. The Jamaican jerk chicken. I go into the bathroom and begin to do my business, making all kinds of noises that I cannot avoid making. She heard everything. I was mortified, and this killed the mood. I couldn't get it up after that. She was a surgical nurse, so I think she understood. She did visit me eventually for a long weekend, which didn't go well, lol. Felt like a job interview. She didn't approve of my career path, lol. I hadn't known a long weekend tryst was going to end like that. I guess I should have cut my losses on that cruise ship. Had a couple encounters with friends with benefits that were great. Not someone I cared about, but good sex. A month or two later she's in town, so we get together. Start ducking and she's clearly not into it. I don't even remember if I finished, but after we're done she starts crying and confesses she's in love with her ex. Kinda awkward and definitely the worst sex I've ever had. I had keys of the office that I used to work there. So I went there with my ex-GF, and started the sex. It was on 6th floor and had a very good view of whole city, but there was reception desk in front of the window. So why not a doggy style in front of the window? After 3 minutes of desk making weird sound. It fell apart, me and her laughing on the ground with the broken desk. Went to hook up with this girl. She wasn't the prettiest, but when you're young and horny sometimes your hormones put blinders on you. Didn't want her to know where I lived, so we got a cheap hotel near the bar. We go to get it on and she was hinting at wanting a little tongue first. I go to slide her pants and underwear off when the extremely strong and bad smell coming from her crotch hit me. I slowly pulled them back up and then asked if she wanted more beer instead. Had a couple more and passed out. Went our separate ways after that. I was grateful. If she hadn't been so dirty, who knows what STD I might have caught, or worse, what if I had gotten her pregnant. Dodged a bullet there. Dude comes over after he starts ducking me. He had an allergic reaction to my dogs and has to leave. A threesome with my girlfriend and my best friend. It was awkward and cringe all around. She later slept with him and another friend. Needless to say, we aren't together anymore. Alcohol was definitely involved. I fell asleep during sex once. I tried so hard to give the guy a chance. He was a really nice dude, but we weren't sexually compatible at all. The sex was so bad I just completely zoned out and fell asleep underneath him. We actually ended up being good friends and I was able to give him a few tips for future experiences, but I felt so bad about it at the time. 6 weeks ago, just could not get a ducking boner. We were old friends, we were suddenly both single, we were both going through a tough time. I am fit, athletic, and very confident. I also am a bit of a man-ho, so performing hasn't been an issue. I can't explain the soft willy. I'll never know what it was, but I suspect I cared a lot more than normal about performing well and got into my head about it. I thought we'd just laugh it off, but she was not cool about it. She basically gave up and left. Then I got friend ghosted. A 3-year friendship ruined because of it. Reply: man, I'm sorry she handled it so poorly. That happens to every man at some point and it's really not a big deal. The more you think about it and get into your own head, the worse it becomes. If you want to support our new channel, please hit the like and subscribe button. We would also love to read some feedback in the comments. Thank you very much. There used to be a girl that was very into me. For years I held it because while she looked nice, I didn't like her as a person. One night after getting drunk and she basically forcing herself in my bed, I said, hey, why the duck not? I was single and horny as well. We start going to town and all of a sudden she starts puking. I help her out and get her cleaned up. And she wanted to continue. But hearing and seeing her puke killed the mood for me instantly. So I was left with a floppy D at best and just straight up told her it's not working and that I was just going to sleep. A while later I heard that she had told everyone I couldn't get it up with her, but she also never mentioned her puking like a demon from hell next to the bed. Shit happens, I guess, haha. That would be something that happened when I was in the Air Force way back in the late 70s, after much alcohol with my best friend, who was also my neighbor who lived right beside me. He passed out on the floor beside the couch and his wife, who just happened to be a very hot and sexy young thing, began telling me how she had an affair with his supervisor at their last duty station. Now she didn't just say she had an affair, she went into great detail of how he would duck her every time he got her alone. She then made it clear that she was available. Well, I'm no genius, but I know a good thing when I see it, and within minutes I was ducking her on the couch right beside her passed out husband. This woman was insatiable. Next morning she got her cloths on, got her husband up and walked over to her unit. About 3 hours later she was back and said, he knows we ducked last night. I asked her how and she said I told him. I looked past her out my kitchen window and saw him walking toward my door with a bag in his hand, and I just knew he was going to blow my head off. He knocked, I opened the door, he reached into the bag, I took a few steps backward, he pulled out a beer, handed it to me and said, see, I told you she was a great duck. When my balls touched hers. But it was too late, I paid my money. I had a very short-lived friend with benefits about 5 years ago. We could hardly do it because she was 18 at the time and lived at her parents who were always at home, so the times we did it she was on top, shirts etc. were on. She didn't want me to go on top because what if we made too much noise and her parents came upstairs? The best experience I had with her, which was still pretty mediocre, was in the back of my car in a forest. That was an experience that I never wish on anyone else. I was at a house party shortly after joining the military, super drunk, when the couple whose house it was introduced me to this woman. Attractive, but definitely about 10 years older than everyone else at the party. My drunk brain didn't question a thing and we proceeded to duck in my friend's spare bedroom. Morning comes and she leaves. As I'm nursing my coffee/hangover, my friend's wife tells me that she is their neighbor and is married to one of the sergeants I work with. Already feeling terrible for the situation, I go back to my barracks. This woman calls me a couple hours later, apparently I had given her my number in my drunkenness, and starts telling me how she wants to come by my barracks room while her husband is at work. I had to tell her that we couldn't and how bad of an idea that was, and ended up blocking her number after that. Had sex with a guy I've been crushing on for years. Genius smart. Super hot nerd. We finally hooked up one night and it was so small that it wouldn't stay inside me. He kept saying oops every time it came out. Then he said I'm going to go get some water and then we went to sleep. Worst part of the story is that I made fun of him behind his back for a long time afterwards. That was a bad move and I'll always regret it. I'm not sure if he's aware of it, but either way. My sister's friend was living at my mom's house for a while. I would come to visit family on the weekend, and she and I hit it off, and started a relationship. One day I came by and she was the only one home. What are two horny 20-somethings going to do? We went upstairs and had some fun. Nobody else was in the house, so we made no attempt to be quiet. Thing was, the window was open, and we had to awkwardly stop when we heard my mom from outside yell, "I can hear you." This is going to get lost in the comments, but I had a first date with a very strange dude. He was really pushy and I finally caved, and when he was coming, he jumped up and jizzed on his wall behind his bed. The way he did it, it definitely seemed like he did this before. RIP his wall. During my most awkward experience, I was near ovulation and I decided to have sex then. Well, normally every now and then I tend to bleed while ovulating, and that day was my lucky day. My boyfriend at the time proceeded to eat me out when all of a sudden he stopped. He licked his lips to taste and then said, "You're bleeding." No wonder it tasted like metal. It was super embarrassing and he didn't give oral for a long time after that, lol. Thank you for listening to another B-Town Reddit Stories episode. Hit the subscribe button and check out our channel for more stories. Let us know your opinion about this topic in the comments.